So I want to talk about something I've seen everywhere lately, and it's the word sellout. Anytime an artist makes a move that looks even remotely industry adjacent, people start throwing that label on them like it's automatic. And right now, two names are getting that treatment. LaRussell with the Roc Nation situation and EVEN.biz with their new deal connected to UMG. So the question is simple, but the answer really isn't. Did they sell out or did they just level up? And I'm gonna be honest, I think the real conversation isn't about selling out, it's about control. It's ownership, it's leverage. It's, are you building something or are you giving something away? Because sellout usually means a few things. It means you gave up control, you gave up ownership of some sort, you let somebody else tell you when to drop, how to sound, who to collab with and who you can't collab with, what your brand should be. That's the classic fear. But I also think that we have to admit something. Growth looks like betrayal to people who only respect struggle. So I want to break this down in a way that's fair because I actually think both of these moves are part of what the future of music is going to look like if it doesn't get hijacked. So let's start with LaRussell. One reason people care so much about his journey is because it just felt like the purest form of independent success. Like, this is the definition of building it from the ground up. He wasn't waiting for the industry to discover him. He was creating momentum in real life. And the visual of it all, like him building from his own space, creating that community vibe, turning his environment into the brand, it made people emotionally attached to the story. I mean, he literally did it from his backyard. And when you watch somebody build like that, you're not just a fan of the music. You feel like you're a part of the movement as a whole, and you feel like we did this. So when the word that Roc Nation entered the conversation, some people instantly felt like, oh nah, now it's theirs. But here's the part that matters. What's been said publicly and what people keep repeating is that LaRussell still owns his masters. And that matters because that's literally the line between a partnership and a trap. Historically, when people got signed, it was more like a trade. You traded your ownership for the machine. You traded your long-term wealth for short-term exposure and clout. You traded control for the chance, the lottery ticket to make it big. So if you're telling me he still owns his masters, then we're not talking about the classic I gave my catalog and my soul away type of deal. We're talking about a strategic partnership. Think Michael Jordan and Nike. Most people who do a deal with Nike are completely under the Nike brand and probably to some extent at the mercy of Nike creatively. With the Jordan brand, it looks and feels like an actual partnership between the two brands. Jordan still owns the royalties for the brand, and even if it's still technically under the Nike umbrella, their logo isn't even on the majority of his shoes. You really think Nike's telling Michael Jordan when to drop and what to drop? And then the next question becomes, why do the deal at all? Well, because even if you're winning independently, you can still run into ceilings. Not because you aren't talented, but because certain systems are built on relationships, infrastructure, reach, and distribution power. It's access to bigger rooms, bigger brand relationships, bigger marketing muscle, bigger opportunities in sync, bigger touring connections, bigger playlists, sure, but also just bigger business in general. And Roc Nation isn't just some random label name. It's a whole infrastructure, business, relationships, management, brand power with an entire touring system through Live Nation. So if LaRussell already proved that he can create demand on his own, he walks into those conversations with leverage. And leverage is the difference between getting played and getting positioned. And that's the part that people forget. People act like every deal is the same. But the truth is, the deal you get depends on what you bring to the table before you ever sign anything. Now, why are people calling it a sellout? Because emotionally, people see Roc Nation and they hear industry machine. They've seen artists make partnerships like this, and then suddenly the sound changes, the rollout changes, everything gets polished in a way that feels super corporate, and the community feeling completely disappears. So I get the fear, I really do. But I think the fear is less sellout and more don't let them water you down. And that's fair. Now let's pivot to EVEN.biz and their deal, because this one is especially interesting to me because I'm not even talking about this as a spectator. I was actually an early adopter of Even. I released music on Even about 2 years ago, back when a lot of people weren't even discussing it like that. So seeing Even become a bigger part of the music conversation right now, I'm not shocked. I'm like, yeah, this is what things should have been moving towards. And I am and always been vocal about the negatives of music streaming and always encourage direct to consumer, and I'm willing to die on that hill. You can look up years ago, I made a crap ton of shorts talking about it. I still stand on business with that. And because Even is basically a direct-to-consumer platform for artists, it's built around the idea that instead of living and dying by streaming pennies or fractions of pennies, you can sell music and content straight to your fans. And one of the biggest ideas that makes it powerful is that you can set your pricing, meaning you can literally name your price. And that changes it on a psychological level. See, streaming taught artists to chase numbers. Streams are attention, but they're not necessarily support. It's like you're throwing your music into the giant ocean and hoping the algorithm decides if you're worthy. And even if they do, you're still getting fractions of a penny. Direct to consumer is different. It's more like running a store. So you're building actual customers, you're building a list, you're building relationships. Streaming is like putting your music in a vending machine where you get paid fractions of a penny per sip. And the vending machine owner decides who gets seen, who gets to be at the top and all that. Direct to consumer is like you run your own shop, and when your real supporters buy, you feel it immediately. When I use Even and Bandcamp, I got paid the next day, literally. So instead of needing hundreds of thousands of streams to see anything, you might need a few hundred true fans who actually buy and support you. And that's how artists become sustainable. Not famous, sustainable. Because the goal isn't just clout. The goal is, can you pay your bills off your art? Can you keep creating without begging the algorithm for mercy? Can your career survive even when you're not trending? The name your price aspect is huge because it lets the artist decide how they want to move. You can drop something for $1, you can drop something for $5, you can make it 10, you can bundle it with exclusives, you can reward early supporters, you can do limited releases, you can create a reason for a real fan to say, I want to support this. Because your real supporters don't just want the song. They want to feel connected. They want access. They want community. They want to feel like they're a part of the story and your journey. Now, Even started getting bigger attention because we saw proof points. Look at J. Cole's recent release. And that mattered because it reminded everybody that fans will still buy the music, even right now in 2026, if you give them a reason. If you make it special, if you make it feel direct, if you make it feel like supporting the artist actually matters. So when people ask, is direct to consumer real? The answer is, it's real when the artist-fan relationship is real. Now here's where things get spicy. Even announces this deal with UMG, I know. And the internet goes, oh, so Even sold out too. Like the same platform that's supposed to be empowering artists is now working with the biggest of the big dogs. And I get why people feel that way. But again, this is where we have to separate emotion from structure. Because this could be a massive win for all artists, or it could be the beginning of something getting hijacked. Let's talk about the upside first. So the upside is if majors adopt direct-to-consumer infrastructure, it pushes the whole industry into admitting something, that streaming alone is not enough, which I knew, but it just takes time for people to catch up. Artists need better economics. Fans want real relationships and ownership of the music. There has to be a path where music isn't just content. It's a product again. It's community again. It's support again. If more money starts flowing through direct-to-consumer systems, that could mean artists are getting paid more per supporter than streaming pays. It can mean getting paid faster. It can mean being able to drop earlier. It can mean that culture shifts towards ownership and customer relationships instead of just chasing streams. And if that becomes normalized, independent artists benefit too, because fans start learning the difference between a stream and a purchase, between passive listening and active support. Now here's the downside. We all know when majors enter a space, they don't just participate. They optimize, they control, they build funnels, all of that. So the first risk is direct-to-consumer becomes another tool that mostly benefits the top 1% artists while everyone else just gets buried. The second risk is platform drift. A platform can start by serving independent artists, and then as it grows, it starts building features and rules around major partners. And suddenly the indie community becomes an afterthought. And the third risk is the biggest one, the relationship. In direct-to-consumer, the customer relationship is the gold. So the question is, who owns that relationship? Who owns the fan data? Does the artist still have that direct line with emailing? Or does the platform and the label start inserting themselves between the artist and the fan once again? Because if majors find a way to recreate the middleman inside direct-to-consumer, then we're just back to square one. It'll just be a new logo on the same old game. So where do I personally land on all this? I'm actually for it, for the most part. I'm for LaRussell partnering up as long as ownership stays intact, because ownership is the line. Ownership is the thing that turns a deal from I got played into I got positioned. And I'm for even making a deal with UMG as long as it does what direct-to-consumer is supposed to: create better economics than streaming, keep artists in control, keep the relationship intact, and keep this from turning into another corporate gatekeeping system. Artists owning their masters, artists getting paid more than fractions, artists building direct relationships, fans feeling like their support actually matters, fans owning the music, and platforms staying artists first even as they scale. But I want to ask you, do you think this is a sellout, or do you think this is the next evolution of indie, where indie stops meaning small and starts meaning ownership and leverage? Drop your take in the comments, because depending on how this goes, this could either be the rebirth of independent music, or it could be the moment the majors figured out how to absorb it. But as always, thank you guys for watching. Till next time, peace.